Welcome to the 10th Chin-Wag, and I'm glad to have you with us. 10 episodes already, and they're all listed on YouTube. I'm glad that you weigh in with conversations, emails, and I love to hear from you. I love to answer questions. So yesterday we posted a picture on That's Not My God, and it was quite an interesting one. It showed a picture. Well, here it is. Isn't that great how it shows the picture of the first church to where it is now, and there's churches all over the place, and then the one says, that so this is where our movement came along and finally got the Bible right. That church says they have it right, and someone in the crowd says Jesus is so lucky to have us. I think that's just priceless. Let me talk to you about church growth a little bit here. I engaged in conversation yesterday with somebody who started a church in one of the larger cities, and they said, no time the crime rate's going to go down and their church will be huge. And I said, probably not. I didn't mean to burst their bubble, and there again I got the foot and mouth disease. But they asked for my thoughts, and so I gave it to them. And the average statistic, you can Google it, the average church size in America is 65 to 80. You talk to anybody that's planning a church and becoming a pastor at a church somewhere, probably most of them have this aspiration that their church is going to be something massive and huge. But here's what I've come to learn after pastoring now a church for, I think it's 6 years now, but been in the ministry as a staff pastor for 15 plus years. A lot of people are going to say it's going to grow fast, and that's not the healthiest thing in the world. I actually interviewed with one person. I've never put my resume out to anybody. It was always one of these things where they came calling to me, and I appreciate that. I'm humbled by it. I honestly don't see what they see in me when they do that. But the one pastor that I was going to work under as a youth pastor, he said, you know what? If our church doesn't grow by 50 people or more per year, I'm going to quit. It's sad. I really didn't like that whole mindset on church. After being in church and being on staff for a while, I've come to realize that you don't want your church to explode. There's a few reasons for this. Number one, it becomes very corporate. Why do you want your church to grow? If you want it to grow by 50 people a year, then you're planning building projects, which don't get me started on those. I understand it's important to have a building, but at what point, like I said, don't get me started on those. But then it becomes all about money, and talking about money, I've known of churches that the pastor was very relational, had people over just because, and then they went into a building project, and what happened was all their communications, all of their talks with people, the reason why they would have people over is to get more money out of them to pay for these buildings. It's really quite sad when they say it's going to go towards helping people in ministry. I just don't understand how $250,000 on landscaping is going to help in ministry when $250,000 could help people that are about to foreclose on a home or go bankrupt. It makes sense, I think. It becomes very corporate, and I'm thankful for smaller churches. Radiant Fellowship is one of them. We don't have it all together. We don't have it right, and I'm okay with that. I think it's a good thing. But there's a couple scripture here that help us understand about the issue of church growth. First of all, I would just point out that Jesus in Matthew 16:18 says, "And on this rock I will build my church." He's talking about Peter. But I think the best thing a pastor can do when he gets hired is resign. Resign and just say, God, I got nothing. You're going to have to do this, and see where it goes. It may take a couple years of not programming, of not doing things intentionally, and just saying, God, what are you doing here? And the reason why I love small churches, the reason why I love the smaller dynamics, and why I'm okay with the average statistical church of 60 to 100 or 80 to 100 people is that, even then it can become something that's hard to manage. I think true church happens on Facebook, in groups, with people, in person, over a hamburger, in a fishing boat, crocheting with ladies, with men. I don't care. My dad does sewing. It's kind of a neat thing. He hand makes quilts. But I think that's where true ministry can happen mostly. Check this verse out. Matthew 18:20, Jesus says, "For where 2 or 3 come together in my name, there am I with them." You notice he never said, where hundreds are gathered together? Because I think he knew that not everyone's going to agree with each other. Oh, I know there's pastors and people that always say, I want everybody on the same page, and that whole agree to disagree thing, I hate it. Well, you know what? It's never going to happen. I almost feel like churches, under their name, it should say, for instance, like our church should say, Radiant Fellowship, I'm sorry. Churches offend people. Churches don't live up to people's standards. But that's why I love the slow growth of a smaller church. We've only been going 6 years, and we're at about 80 people or so, and that's a good thing. I'd much rather have that than explosion growth, and now people want things their way, and the corporate mindset comes in, and the power players, and I give this much, so I want to run this way, blah, blah, blah. I'd much rather see it grow holistically, naturally, organically, however, whatever those new phrases you want to use. And because we get a lot of people that pass through Radiant, as a lot of churches do. But for every 6 to 10 people, I would say, one gets it. These are the people that truly love the fellowship that we have to offer. What are your thoughts on church growth, building plans, building capital campaigns? I'd love to hear them. Email me at info@thatsnotmygod. Ask me questions. I'd be happy to weigh in on these things. I'm only doing a couple more of these Chin-Wags this week, then I'm taking all next week off. I'm going on vacation with my wife, and may record a couple on site where I'm going. I'm not saying where. So we'll talk to you soon. Bye.